Hey guys, let's get more news about Dallas, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. NFL rumors: Dak Prescott, Cowboys haven't had meaningful contract talks. Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott is preparing to enter the final year of his deal, and the two sides apparently have not made much progress in extension talks. The Cowboys may actually want to get something done before the season, but it seems to be Prescott who is exercising patience, via Todd Archer of ESPN. There have not been any meaningful contract negotiations between Prescott and the Cowboys, which is fairly concerning given that training camp is just around the corner. Prescott recently stated that he doesn't play for money, but owner Jerry Jones knows that he will likely have to cough up more than the $55 million annually that Cincinnati Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow is earning in order to retain him, Archer notes. The platitudes from Prescott are nice and all, but let's be real here, money is a significant part of the equation, and if it weren't, there wouldn't be this current standoff in Dallas. If the Cowboys are unable to strike a long-term pact with Prescott before the 2024 campaign, it would set the signal caller up to hit free agency next March. Dallas may actually be comfortable with that if it means it won't have to agree to a $60 million per year contract with Prescott in the coming months. There is also a chance, and a sizable one, at that no other teams would be willing to pay Prescott that much money in free agency. If that ends up being the case, the Cowboys could then bring Prescott back on a more team-friendly deal. Still, Dallas fans must prepare themselves for the possibility of a future without Prescott. The 30-year-old, who turns 31 in July, is coming off of a spectacular 2023 season in which he led the NFL with 36 touchdown passes to go along with 4,516 yards and just 9 interceptions. He finished second in MVP voting as a result. However, Prescott and the Cowboys came up short in the wild card round of the playoffs, getting routed by the Green Bay Packers at home. That loss dropped Prescott's career playoff record to 2-5, and while that certainly isn't all his fault, you can be that Dallas will factor that in contract talks. Of course, the question is if not Prescott, then who? The Cowboys do have Trey Lance, but it doesn't seem like they believe in him as a long-term answer. They didn't select a quarterback in the NFL draft last month, and they will probably be too good to land a high enough draft pick to land one of the top signal callers in next year's class. Prescott is still relatively young, and his lack of postseason success aside, he has been mostly dependable under center ever since he entered the league in 2016. He did lead the NFL in interceptions in 2022 in spite of playing in just 12 games, but for the most part, Prescott has arguably been a top 10 quarterback in the game. Right now, this is all posturing. Prescott surely wants to remain in Dallas, and the Cowboys almost definitely want to retain him. It wouldn't be surprising to see the two parties begin inching closer to a deal as the regular season draws nearer. Cowboys 6'7" cyborg tabbed likely to make roster as UDFA. When the 2024 NFL Draft was meandering through its final set of picks, the Cowboys honchos looked at their board of remaining players and were left with raised eyebrows. There was one player still there whom the Cowboys had ranked as a probable fifth-round prospect, Minnesota tight end Brevin Spanford. Even before the final picks wrapped up, even before he'd officially gone undrafted, the Cowboys began making calls to get Spanford to sign as a free agent. It was not easy. Other teams had taken notice of Spanford's free agency and were trying to get him to sign, too. So the Cowboys made an unusual move. Despite already having a relatively full tight end room, Dallas guaranteed Spanford $245,000 on an UDFA contract, an unusually high amount for a player uncertain of making the roster. But, given the team's weakness on the offensive line, the Cowboys could see that Spanford has the potential to be a particularly useful weapon as a blocker. He's 6'7" and 260 pounds, and ranked among the best non-lineman blockers in college football last year. Because of that, the analysis site Cowboys Wire noted, Spanford has a chance to be one of the many UDFA success stories that have come out of the star in recent years. It is quite a list, as Cowboys Wire pointed out. Tony Romo is the biggest name, but the Cowboys' UDFA prowess has also produced the likes of Cole Beasley, Miles Austin, and Marquise Bell. Now, the site writers, Spanford has a chance to join that group. Standing at an impressive 6'7" and weighing 260 pounds, Spanford brings a big-bodied presence to the team's tight end room. The Cowboys were so keen on securing his services that they outbid other teams, offering him a $20,000 signing bonus and a substantial guarantee of $225,000. This investment reflects high expectations that he will make the 53-man roster, CW noted. That will take some doing. The Cowboys are likely to keep 4 tight ends on hand, and the first 2 spots are firmly in place. Starter Jake Ferguson showed enough as a rookie to prompt the Cowboys to let Dalton Schultz walk in free agency, and Ferguson outplayed Schultz last year. The Cowboys also used a second-rounder on Luke Schoonmaker in 2023, so he is sticking around. Spanford would have to beat out all but one of John Stevens, Noah Fant and Peyton Hendershot to earn a spot on the roster. It's possible he could do that, as long as the Cowboys keep the focus on how good Spanford is as a blocker. Because while he is an obviously excellent pass blocker, he is equally bad as a pass catcher, struggling with dropped balls during his final season with the Gophers. That is unfortunate, because Spanford did not have much trouble with dropped balls before last year. He had no drops, according to Pro Football Focus, and 23 catches in his first NCAA season. In year 2, he had 42 catches and 3 drops. But last year, he dropped a whopping 9 passes on 46 targets. 26.5% drop rate is the highest by a player in all the years PFF has measured those stats. The Fort Worth Star-Telegram wrote of Spanford, the jewel of the post-draft signings was a player at seemingly a position of strength for Cowboys in Minnesota tight end Brevin Spanford. The Cowboys won a bidding war for the services of the 6'7", 270-pound cyborg, giving him a $20,000 signing bonus and $225,000 guaranteed. Eagles news: Cowboys fans are sweating the lack of a Dak Prescott contract extension. Latest on negotiations, team owner Jerry Jones might have been delighted to hear Prescott say during OTAs that he doesn't play for money, but he knows the final price on an agreement will be significant, perhaps higher than the $55 million annually Joe Burrow makes as the league's highest-paid quarterback. To date, there haven't been meaningful talks between the sides. While the Cowboys have been criticized for waiting to get a deal done, Prescott has shown patience. It worked for the signal caller in 2021, when he signed his 4-year, $160 million deal, and it could work again. Getting something done before the season starts would be preferable for the Cowboys, but the final deadline is early March. Without a deal before the 2025 league year, Prescott will count $40.5 million against the cap and likely be headed to a new team, following the path Kirk Cousins went through this offseason. Cowboys continue to draw national skepticism for not extending any top priority player, blogging the boys. Nobody understands what is taking so long. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons are all hanging in the balance for the Dallas Cowboys to varying degrees as far as their contracts with the team are concerned. You may feel that the team should be focused on bringing back 1, 2, or all 3 of these players. However, you feel it is rather unlikely that you want to see them all sign their seemingly inevitable extensions with different teams. This is why the lack of pen swooshing across papers feels so strange. You can make arguments against extending Dak Prescott if you really want to, but it is rather difficult to do so with CeeDee Lamb or Micah Parsons. Again, it is pretty impossible to do it for both. As the summer season is now here and the off-season rolls along, the national media, like all of us, remains flummoxed by the way that the Cowboys' brain trust is approaching this whole thing. Last week ESPN's Bill Barnwell handed out off-season superlatives to every team, and when it came to the Cowboys he leaned into the infamous all-in comments and how nothing that Dallas has done has lived up to that claim. Report, Eagles, Patriots will hold one joint training camp practice, BGN. The Eagles will have one joint training camp practice with the Patriots in Foxborough, Massachusetts ahead of their preseason matchup in mid-August. Nick Sirianni and company will travel to New England a few days early to compete on the practice field on Tuesday, August 13th. And you, fan? What do you think of the situation of Dak Prescott? Leave your opinion in the comments.